postdoc in the Technion. I'm doing data science with Dvira Ran. But the main thing that you need to know about me, that I have PhD in physics. Theoretical nuclear physics. Please stay, don't go. So, you hear me? You probably ask yourself how come I got from doing that, and believe me, I did that a lot, to doing that. Okay, so let's get back a little bit in time. Remember 2019? Happy times? Yeah? Yeah, so then I did my PhD in physics. I did it in theoretical nuclear physics. What I did is focusing on what we call few body system. So we're looking on a very small system of nuclear interaction and trying to calculate them. 1919, I finished my PhD and moved to Trento, lovely city, north of Italy, yeah, to do a postdoc. Thank you for that. So, my postdoc was on many-body physics. What is many-bodies? It's like few-body physics, but on many-body. But the basic mechanisms stay the same. We're looking only on the microscopic interaction, like the two-body, three-body interaction of a very big, large, complex system. And from that, we're trying to calculate the macroscopic feature of the system, or what we physicists like to know, solving the Schrödinger equation. I won't solve the Schrödinger equation. But what happened after 2019? Remember? 2020. And I was in North Italy. I was in Milan in February 2020. I came back after a day. Remember, Pirata Adom, all the people came from Italy, we have to be in quarantine, everybody thought we were sick. Israel was a mess, Italy was in a bigger mess, and everybody tried to say something about COVID-19. Physicists started to say something about COVID-19. And I said, really? Physics? Do we have something to do with COVID-19? And I said, okay, well, I'm a physicist, right? What I know how to do? To calculate two-body interaction. And if you think about it, what is infection? It's a two-body interaction, right? We have a healthy person and we have an infected person. And if they interact, the infected person, the health may infect the healthy one. And yes, believe me, I know, people are not particles, okay? Put that on the table. But what if we'll take the same mechanism that I use to solve complex physics system and try to predict COVID-19? And spoiler alert, it works. So, imagine that we have a surface with a lot of particles. Each particle simulates a person. So from now on, I will talk about people, not about particles. And this population can be divided into two subgroups. One of them are healthy, or we call susceptible. It means that people that are not infected. Some of them are infected. I mean, they are contagious right now. They can infect other people. And the other are recovered. It means they're out of the system. They're not healthy, so they cannot be infected anymore, and they're not contagious right now. And people are moving every day. They're moving. We're changing their position. We are using Monte Carlo algorithm for that. It's changing randomly. And the more encounters that we have between people, then there is more likelihood of infection. So when people are moving, they are meet. If one of them is healthy, one of them are infected, there is a chance that there's going to be an infection. So since this is an individual model, then we have a lot of flexibility. For example, we can model a very different scenarios of infection, like a very dense one, like a conference or a concert. We can use a not really dense simulation, like in a mall or something like that, or really, really like a dilute one, like a little village in Sweden, where the likelihood that you see somebody is clearly zero. Another thing that we can do with a model is add more data and more feature to it. For example, vaccine, right? In the beginning of 2021, there was a lot of massive vaccination of the population. So we can try and say that some of the people are protected. And we don't have to do that uniformly, because remember, in the beginning of 2021, not all the population in Israel was vaccinated at the same time. We started with the elderly one, and then moved back, and then moved to the people who are younger, and the kids weren't vaccinated at all. So we can vaccinate some of the people in the model and do that even according to their age. Another thing that we can do is that we can add like different variant. So different people are infected from different variant, and this affects their infection pattern. And we can do a lot of stuff, but the fact that we're using an individual model helps us to put a lot of features to the model. So how does it look like? Again, on day first, I divide my population into 3, susceptible, healthy, infected, and recovered. And every day I'm looking at the probability that a healthy person get infected. So this probability is a function of its distance, this person distance from all the infected people around it, which comes into this function. And also I need to know how much this person is protected, for example, if it's vaccinated. And if this probability is greater than 1, then the healthy population, I remove one of them, and the infected population goes up with 1. But we need to remember that people are not contagious forever. So some of the people, no matter what the probability is, if they are infected, they are becoming recovered just as a function of time. So here I just put 1 interaction, like I have 1 healthy person and 1 infected person, but of course, we are dealing with large population. So for each healthy person, I have to take into account all its interaction with all the infected people in its environment. And I put a different line for different healthy people. And now, let's put it there. I hope it's going to work. Yes, no? Yes, I put a little animation. Every time the yellow is changing the health status, people are moving, and every time we need to calculate it from scratch, the probability of each healthy person to become infected again. And notice that we started with 3 healthy person, and now we're left with only 1, but we have more recovered people. So that's nice. But it's not really efficient, right? Because this is a really, really small system. So what happened is like last year, the beginning of 2022, the Omicron outbreak. Remember, loads of people were infected. So if I want to simulate what happened in Israel, when I have like 7 million healthy people, but 500,000 infected, then every time I have to take into account 10 to the 12 interaction. Well, in the academic, we have a lot of time, but I don't always do that for the academic. So if I want to do some decision making with this model, and I want to simulate not 1 scenario, but 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't have time for that. I have to find a way to make this model be much, much more efficient. So the first thing we can do is to use a periodic boundary condition. It means that we don't take all the population. We take what we call a unit cell, and we keep the density, because the density is really what we are all in matter of. And this unit cell has to have all the information. This means that if I have a lot of resolution that I need to have in my system, then I need to have quite a big unit cell. And then I'm making a replica for each healthy person, like that. So what I'm doing, I'm kind of duplicate this unit cell, and I'm keeping the minimal distance for each healthy person. As you see here, now this healthy person, now it has shorter distance from all it's surrounded. And if the unit cell is not pretty big, that I can put everything in a matrix, use NumPy, and that works. But sometimes I cannot do that because I need more resolution, and then I can use multiprocessing. And so I'm kind of, So I'm splitting my code into different processing. And again, you need to keep into account that I'm only splitting the healthy people. The infected are keeping on each processor because the infected people are talking with all the healthy, but for each healthy person, I'm doing the calculation over different processor. And then I'm putting everything back together. And this initial state turns out to that. So this is a really nice model. And I did a lot of work with it, some from academics. And in the beginning of 2029, I used this model to do a lot of decision-making for the state of Israel, especially how COVID will spread in the presence of effective vaccine. Some of them was covered by the press. You can see here. Also, in the summer 2029, if you remember, there was a waning immunity, and there was a Delta. So I tried to see how the morbidity in Israel will be in the presence of a booster dose, how that's going to affect the morbidity in Israel. See here, down there. And also during the Omicron outbreak, I gave some predictions. This is, for example, a prediction that I gave for the Israeli Ministry of Health of what's going to be the number of active severe cases every day. Israel, I gave this prediction. I don't have a pointer, but I gave this prediction in January. It's a black dot there, and the red ones are the actual data that going all the way up to March. It's a very accurate model. And you can follow me on Twitter. I give some more productive production for the COVID even now. Okay, so that's nice. But, from time to time, we don't have an outbreak. So we can have time to think about more interesting questions. From time to time, And the one thing that we noticed in the subject of a vaccine is that in the beginning of 2020 now, again, Israel started to vaccinate a lot of people, and then a lot of studies came. And there were like real data studies, not that you vaccinated people that are part of the experiment. You just see on the vaccinated population how much this population is getting infected and not. So one of the biggest study was done by the Clalit, the biggest health organization in Israel. And they found that this is a red bar. If they're looking on the younger population that was done in the beginning of 2020 now, the vaccine is very effective. It's effective as 90%. However, if they look on the elderly population, the vaccine is even more effective, like 95%, which is a bit weird. But what is even weirder is the Maccabi. Maccabi did the same study, same time, same vaccine, same population. They only get 80. Which is really, really weird because it's, again, same vaccine, same population, Israel, same time. Why the Maccabi is different from the Clalit? And maybe it doesn't look like a big difference, but 20% effectiveness say that the vaccine person is protected by 10 times. 25 is 20 and 80 is only 5. So it is something different in the study, and it's not the vaccine. I tell you what is different. In the Clalit, they took what we call population-based approach. It means that people are vaccinated and just going around, and we see every day who was infected and who not. Maccabi did something else. They use the secondary infection approach. It means that they're looking only on a household, in the family, and they know exactly for each infection who was the source of this infection. And so maybe the different connections that were in the Maccabi study makes the vaccine looks different from the Clalit. So we have a hypothesis of that. So maybe there is some, like indirect protection from the vaccine that bias the vaccine effectiveness. So for maybe in the Maccabi, people saw the less vaccinated people, they interact with them less, and that gave the vaccine to look less effective. So we want to check that. So first of all, we built a really simple network. Each of the network contained 25 nodes, numbered from 1 to 25. And this network contains 5 inner network, 5 clicks. So what we need to know is that the connection inside the inner network for each node is much stronger than the outer. So each of the network have exactly 40% vaccinated nodes. The main difference is the mixing. As you can see here, in the left one, we have a very, very low mixing. This means that the vaccinated, all the inner network are either vaccinated or unvaccinated. We have some medium in the medium network and high mixing in the right one. So the left one, the first one can be, for example, a nursing home in the beginning of the vaccinated campaign, where all the residents and all the staff were vaccinated and the people hardly met unvaccinated people. However, this right one can be a family because, as you remember, kids weren't vaccinated. So if we have a family of 2 vaccinated parents and 3 unvaccinated kids, actually the vaccinated parent meets more unvaccinated people than vaccinated. So he is exposed to more unvaccinated, which is kindly what happened in the Maccabi study. So we did a very simple equation trying to connect. I'm not talking about it, but the thing that you need to know is that Now we can have a connection. We can have like a feature. How many people are in the inner network, outer? How many people are vaccinated? What is your chance to be infected inside the network? And then outside, and then connect it to the ratio between your input vaccinated effectiveness to the observed one. And we can draw a graph because we have scientists who are doing. And if you see here, low level of mixing, and here, and we call I the level of mixing, is related to a high overestimated vaccine effectiveness, which was like the Klalit, where especially for the elderly one, right? But if we're looking on the high level of mixing, we get an underestimated, because in all of this graph, we gave 85% effectiveness. But this translates to a higher one in a low mixing level and to a low one in a high mixing level. Okay, that's nice. But the real question is, can we do like a real modeling with real data to prove that? Okay, so what we did. Everything was taken from public data of Israel. First of all, we used nearly 1,600 data of 1,600 statistical area, which in average, each of them contain like 5,000 people. And we have data on it. And the second is that we took the basic model and we put a network on it. It means that now for each healthy person, we have like a circle of infection, where the most strong one is your family, and then you are moving like to a close community and then to your remote community. So, and the people, of course, we have, can interact with each other, and we control the rate of vaccination of each person of each statistical area. And so we can, for example, have this one where the people are really, really not mixed. And also we have, mixing of the population. And the rate of vaccination of each statistical area is the real rate taken from the official data from the Israeli Ministry of Health. So we kind of organize our area from the most vaccinated areas. This is from the beginning of 2029 to the least one. And we are assuming that most of the infection are within the same statistical area. So we want to check how the fact that the vaccination in Israel was not uniformly may affect the result of both of the studies. So we take the basic model, but now, in addition to the distance, the real physical distance between the people, we add like a family distance. So the closer the family distance is, there is more chance of being infected. And I put it like that. The distance of the connection is the distance, the length. But the color indicates the family connection. So like that, for example, you see these two red people over there. Their distance for the healthy person is almost the same, but one of them is in a remoter community than the other, so the chance of being infected from this person is much, much lower than the one to its left. And what we did with the model, that we arranged that half of the infection will be inside the household. So the first test to the model is just to see whether or not we can predict the confirmed case, because it's nice, but if we cannot predict the number, then the model is not good. So that's nice. First of all, we see that our model predicts the confirmed case in Israel really, really good. And second, we put to the model a lot of different level of mixing between people, and we see that no matter which mixing we put in the system, the model and the real data are almost the same. But on the other hand, it's saying that the confirmed cases cannot tell us what was the level of mixing in Israel at that time, and we need to find a different approach to find that. So this is the final graph. We take all the data, and for each mixing scenario, we calculate what is the vaccine effectiveness of using the data. And we did it in two approaches. One is the population-based. It means that for every day, I'm taking all the people that were vaccinated, finding how many people are not vaccinated, seeing how many of those vaccinated and unvaccinated were infected, and then calculated the vaccine effectiveness. In the secondary approach, a secondary infection approach, I'm only looking for each infection on its close infection, because I know for each person who is in his family, in his community, and only looking on that. And what we can see that, again, like in the analytical model, low level of mixing translate to a high vaccine effectiveness, which is really goes with the Clalit experiment study, and high level of mixing goes with low vaccine effectiveness. But the problem is that when we have a study, we cannot know what was the real vaccine effectiveness. So in the secondary infection, we can know that, because for each family, I can tell how many people in the family were vaccinated, how much not. I can assume that there is no infection outside the family because I'm only looking on that. So I can actually use my analytical equation from beginning and then say, okay, the effectiveness was 80, but these are all the inputs. So it was really originate from 85. I cannot do that with population base. I need to find something else. So we did it. Okay, so what we did, we say, okay, we're doing the population-based approach, but we are only taking vaccinated family, because we don't want to mix in the study vaccinated people, vaccinated family with non-vaccinated family. And every time we match these numbers on the same statistical area. So we try to remove as many bias as we can. This is the dashed blue line. As you can see, that no matter what level of mixing that we put in the system, the model was able to predict, say, 85 effectiveness, which is what we put it into the model, which is really good. And that's saying that we can take this physical model and not just predicting COVID, and doing also very interesting question to answer it. So thank you. And I want to thank all the people that I've been collaborating using for this model for the last, 3 years. Starting from my host in Trento, Dr. Deleon in the Technion. All the work that I did for the first vaccinated campaign was done with the HUGI COVID-19 monitoring team. And in the Omicron, we had another scientist staff team that we work with a lot from the Technion, Rambam, and the Hebrew University. And I'm not only doing COVID, also monkeypox, and you can talk to me whenever, and you can find me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and thank you all. Yeah. Okay. We'll start with one.
The data that you are actually working with, this is the data from those networks, Maccabi and...
No, only public. It's a subject to a really long and talk, but no. Yeah. There is a problem in Israel of getting some of the data, and I, as an agenda, work with only data that is available. All the sources are in the talk. No, I'm only using their final result. I don't have,
Perfect. This is great. The second question, and then I'll release it to someone else. Do you have an equation to be published eventually?
Yes. Do I have an equation? Yes. Well, the model was published in Physics of Fluid and PRE, the physical stuff. We put on medRxiv just recently with Dvir, a paper that compares this model for each outbreak in Israel to the classical SIR model. We put a pseudocode. All the equations are there. Also, this over and underestimation is now in under revision. And then I will put all in the supplementary materials. There is a part of 18 equations if anybody is interested of how you get to this final. But yes, all the equations are available. And if not, I will send it to you. Yeah. More?